Hello there, welcome to Night's Arcade. I am Sleepless Night and here we are in Kingdom Come Deliverance, and today I'm going to be showing you the Treasures of the Past DLC. I'm going to show you exactly where to find the treasure from each of its 5 ancient maps and exactly what each loot receptacle contains, along with a couple of very quick bonus treasures just because they happen to be very close to the ancient treasures we're going to find. If you already did some of these, or you just want the location of specific ones, don't worry, I'll put the exact times of each map in the video description and on the screen so that you can quickly navigate to each one if you really don't have the time to sit through the entire 15-minute video. If the times look a bit messed up, it's because we are not going to do these in chronological order, but rather in the direction of travel which makes the most sense to me at least, starting in the northeast corner of the map and going in a full circle, almost. Now, this will require some lockpicking, since 2 of the ancient treasures are in locked chests, so if you're new to lockpicking, you're going to need some practice. And if you know how to pick easy and possibly hard locks already, you might actually still need some practice, since the very last treasure is in a very hard, locked chest. But don't despair, I'll cover 1 or 2 lockpicking tips at the very end of the video, which might help. So you're going to want to start at going to a chest that you own. I've started at the mill here in Ratai, since if you finish the prologue, at least you will have that chest already. Inside you can see the ancient maps there, 1 to 5. And all you're going to do is you're going to pick those all up and put them in your inventory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And at the bottom there you can see there is the beginnings of a full set of Warhorse armour, the Warhorse Gambeson, which you can see there at the bottom of the list. Now, that isn't the only piece of Warhorse armour. You're going to get a full set, but there are plenty of other things in these treasures if you're not interested in that very loud and gaudy armour. Now, you're going to need a spade. I already have one. If you don't, and you're at the Ratai Mill, there's usually one leaning up against that cart. There isn't one there now, because I've taken it. Okay, so we'll start with map 3. And as you can see, there's a tree circled on the map, and there's a skeleton. Usually when there's a skeleton or a skull and crossbones or something like that on a map, it denotes that you're going to open a grave. And that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to start in Uzhitz, in the northeast corner of the map, and north of Uzhitz there's a wall. You're going to travel outside of Uzhitz on the route marked there, until you come to a pond on your left, opposite a wall on the right. There's the wall. Then you're going to follow that wall all the way to the end along the route that I've marked through the fields there until you come to a tree, which looks exactly like this tree because that actually is the tree. And underneath the tree is a grave. There you go. So just hop down off your horse, get your spade, start digging away, open up the loot basket there, and your loot's inside. The grand bassinet there. There's the odd die recipe for Bivoli's Rage Potion, which apparently increases strength and effectiveness in battle. And the first of your Warhorse armour, besides the Gambeson that you start with in the chest there, is at the bottom. A Warhorse Coif and Warhorse Greaves. Now we're on to map 1. Getting a bit weird this, the wrong direction, isn't it? And if we open up map 1, we will see that there is yet again a skull and crossbones. Yes, you're going to dig up another corpse. We can leave the corpse where it is, but you know. So the first thing you're going to do is travel south to Neuhof, which is where the stud farm is, if you've done that main questline quest there, where all the murders were, where they killed all the horses and the people. And if you've been there and done the ginger in the pickle quest, you'll recognise the charcoal burners camp, which is just here, at the edge of the forest. And just to the east of that is the grave, which contains our ancient loot. Now, if you go to the charcoal burners camp, there's a little path which runs upwards quite steeply to the east. So you just follow that to the end until you get to a wrecked, burnt-out cabin like this. And this is where your first bonus loot is going to be. Just because it's there, it's one of the markers on the way. It's in a hard lockpick chest, so if you're not there yet, ignore it. You know, forget about it. If you are, pop it open, and there's some loot inside. It's not tremendously great loot, but you know, we're on the way. We're on to some bigger and better things now. If you carry east from there into the woods until you reach an upturned barrow by a tree there, and sure enough, by the side of the barrow is another grave. hop down off your horse, you know what to do, whip out the spade, dig up this guy in the grave who for some reason has got an absolutely enormous head, or had an enormous head, pop open your loot basket, and there's your loot. There's a lucky playing die in there, a recipe for poison, a sword called Stinger, not a bad little sword, shiny, I think it's after Sting in the Lord of the Rings, and then there's Warhorse pauldrons and a Waffen Rock at the bottom. On to map 4. So, for map 4, what we're going to do, because look, no skull and crossbones for this one, just a weird little red finger pointing to a strange stone ruined building thing, and that's because that's where the next one is. By a stone ruined building, you're going to follow the river, go all the way back to the mill at Ratai, and from there hop over the bridge, up the road there until you get to a shrine on your left, and hit a hard left and travel to the west until you get to this building here by the side of the road. It's very easy to spot. It's quite difficult to miss. Now, beware of bandits at this particular one. If you're not ready for bandits, then you're not going to get this treasure because unless you're pretty much invisible, there's no way that you're going to get to this location without alerting these bandits. I alerted them just looking for a nightingale. Those who follow my walkthroughs will notice that this camp is empty because I have recently taken care of those bandits, but if you haven't, be on the lookout. They'll be on the lookout for you. So over this stone wall you go, dead easy, right to the other side. Stand here, do a complete 180, and there is your treasure chest in an easy locked chest. Straightforward, and your loot is inside. Some lovely slippers there. A recipe for lullaby potion, a silver ring, and your warhorse helmet. Right, map 2, here we come. Pop open map 2. And there it is, by a boulder and a cave to the far west of Ratai. That's because there's a boulder and a cave. It's straightforward and easy, this. Go back to the road you've just come off, follow it all the way to the west until you get to this point. There's no obvious landmark on the road, but if you travel south from that point, you'll reach this very obvious landmark. Moss-covered boulder, very, very large rock in the middle of the forest. Difficult to miss. It's just below this large rock that you will find a cave. Inside of the cave is a bag of loot. There you go, no digging, no lockpicking, easy as you like. Longbow, German bassinet, another pair of really fashionable slippers, Heavenly Kingdom die, that's an extraordinarily good die, and some Warhorse gambeson chaucers and some Warhorse gauntlets there for you. Now, the bonus treasure, there's another bonus treasure at this location. You'd be a real fool to pass this one up since it's no lockpicking, and it's right outside the door in another grave. Get your spade, dig it up. It's pretty much only saviour schnapps in this, but it's always handy to have a little bit more, and it's only outside the door, so why not? Map 5. This is the really, really tricky one. It's almost impossible to find if you don't want to spend an awful lot of time looking around the woods or you don't have any clue where it is. It's deep in the wilderness, this. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to travel to the northwest, the far northwest corner of the map, to the untamed northwest near Skalitz. I'm not going to draw a bunch of red lines on the map this time because it's going to get ridiculously complicated. It's a long way away. However you get there, it's entirely up to you. This one is hard to find. It's in the untamed, wild northwest, and it's surrounded by a virtually solid wall of trees, almost. But once you get to your fast travel point at Skalitz, you're going to go around the village, over the river, and you're going to travel west along a little path until you reach an accident site. And by that accident site, there should be a little tiny path going north into the woods. Follow that path until it runs out, and there's a scummy green pond somewhere there, I think, but I can't remember exactly. And if you don't believe me that this treasure is right at the edge of the map, there's the treasure, and all you've got to do is walk past it by about 15 steps. That's about all it takes, until Henry says...
I should turn back before Sir Radzig starts thinking I ran off.
There you go. So like I said, right at the edge of the map. But this is what it looks like when you find an opening in the trees that you can actually get through. Once you do find that opening, and trust me, it is difficult because it's surrounded by trees, it's hard to find, just hop down, go down by the cabin, and your treasure chest is right there by the ruined shack. Hop on over to it, and if you've got supreme lockpick skills, you're in. But I'll cover some tips at the end, which hopefully will help you to level. If not, I had to grind like crazy to get there, but don't worry about it. If you are at that level, pick away, pop open the chest, and there's your treasure. Now that dark plate armor jacket is actually quite useful. I find that it's a really, really decent piece of armor, but if you're not interested in that, there's lots of other goodies in here. They're actually not worth a lot, these Warhorse things, of course, so it's the other treasure. If you're looking for money, it's the other treasure you're going to want. But there's a Warhorse Brigandine and a Warhorse Hauberk in there. So if you want to see what Henry looks like in this, there we go. Lovely armour if you like that sort of thing. I think it's hideous, but it was worth the trail, and it was worth all the other treasures that I went out for. You know, out of all these chests, out of which I made thousands of groschen. Nice armour if you like that sort of thing. I don't, but, you know, maybe it's your thing, I don't know. Now, as I said before, I had to grind for hours to get to this, so I'm going to share with you a few lockpick levelling tips if you're not quite high enough to pick this lock. First of all, there are different levels of very hard chests, I've found. There are some that you can get into at level 10 and some that you can't even get into at level 15, as you'll discover as you go through this. So the best thing is to start with the millers. Peshek can train you in lockpicking, and so can Black Lukesh, who's found in this house here, and that is just outside Talmberg, where you can see on the map there it says meet with Black Lukesh. Training is a fast weight level, but you can only train once per level, so better to save those for quick boosts at higher levels, I find. Now, perks, there are perks that you can get. Get the Lasting Lockpicks perk first. I cannot tell you how helpful this is later levelling. That's always the first one you should get. The Deft Grip one is handy, but if grinding by opening doors and chests in towns, the Silent Fiddler perk is pretty important to make sure you're not discovered. The Luck of the Drunk perk is tremendously helpful if you want to get that perk. It makes it 30% easier to pick locks when you're drunk, but you make 30% more noise. Obviously, for the purposes of this particular chest, it doesn't matter, because nobody cares how much noise you make in the woods. If a thief picks a lock in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Who the f*** cares? Anyway, there are also lockpick skill books that you can get. One of them you can get from the Kahelnitz Miller there. His name is Wozciech, and he always has a copy of this book, or at least that's been my experience on my 2 different accounts. The others are quite hard to come by. You can possibly try some other millers, but most of these are found in random encounters, wayfarers, and loot chests. It's an extraordinarily difficult book to find. I think there are actually 4 of these Who Needs a Key skill books, but trying to remember that they are level specific, so there's only one that you can read right at the beginning, and the others you can't read till level 5, 10, and then 15. Other than that, I'm afraid it's just grind, pick as many locks as you can, and remember the higher level of lock that you pick, the more it will help your skill level increase each time. The Swordsmith in Rat's Eye, if you go through the arch down by his shop where his furnace is there are a couple of really hard locks down there that are really good for levelling on. Hard locks, I think they are. And if you go into Talmberg, on the battlements there, if you remember, you might have come inside their armoury here if you were trying to steal some armour and escape. I just got arrested, actually, for being inside this room, and they released me the next day, so that's how I got out. There's an easy locked chest at the top of the ladder there, but if you go down this ladder at the bottom, there's a hard chest on the right and a very hard one on the left, which you might think you might not be able to pick, but remember what I said about different levels of hard and very hard chests. If all else fails, a last-ditch effort is Padfoot Potion, which you can get from Kunhuta the Herbalist, who's just to the north of Ledechko. You can see there on the map. Her alchemy bench is what it's marked as. And there's also the herb woman whose name I don't know, who's in the woods to the west of Ujits there. You can get those from her. Padfoot Potion, I think it costs about between 70 and 75 groschen. This one here you can see is 71 groschen. So, you know, not all that expensive when you consider the amount of loot that you're going to be getting out of a lot of these chests. Padfoot Potion increases your, I think, stealth, your lockpick and pickpocketing skill by 5 points for 10 minutes, so that's tremendously helpful if you want to pick slightly harder chests. If you don't want to buy the potion itself, for whatever reason, you can also buy the recipe to make the potion, which, as you can see here, is considerably more expensive than the potion itself. But, you know, once again, it's a drop in the ocean compared to the amount of loot you're going to get out of these chests and the money you're going to get from it. And, of course, you can make as much as you want to once you've got the recipe. You're going to need 1 cobweb, 1 eyebright, 1 valerian, and 1 chamomile. And also an alchemy bench, of course, but I'm sure you knew that. Right guys, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Check out my walkthroughs if you haven't already. Comment if this video was helpful to you, and please share if you think it would be helpful to somebody else. Until the next time though, enjoy the game and happy adventuring, you and your horse Pebbles, or whatever your horse's name is. And from Knights Arcade, this is Sleepless Knight saying nighty night. I'll see you next time.